Oh shit, I didn't realize. Oh, hello. I was just testing to see whether that's working. Hello, hello. Um, right. You saw nothing. That was merely a mirage. Um, Today we spawn, and I'm gonna try something different this time. The moment we begin, we have to initialize ourselves in this nice little um daily log, which we're going to be using to track how well we're performing in the stuff that we're doing. So let's get into this. Um, Initialized. Okay. What is the goal? Goal is learn how to learn. How? Well, for that, we're going to need to find out what's on the planner. So where were we? To do anything, what we need is to want something, which means to find out where we want to get to do something, which means to actually do the things to get there, and then become something, which is essentially reaching the end. And I will do one thing and set up some music. And okay, there we go. Now, what goes into well, a brain? Since I was born today, I have no idea what this says. So, going into it, the way a brain functions is to essentially, well, okay, what type of brain would we want, right? How would we want learning to be, ideally? Well, we the ideal would be a win button. We would have some ultimate best theoretical learning strategy where we press a button after seeing something and we absorb it into our head. So something that's hard to mess up, like very simple, very easy, something that always leads to successful results. So when I press this button, I need to remember 100% of the thing at 100% of the rate, and it requires little setup. So the button should be something that's like very easy to set up. So I won't need to like get it from a deal with the devil or something. So the button is basically what we'd want in an ideal. So, how does the brain work? How do we? So now we know what we want, which is the first step, which was want. How do we do? Well, if we want to do this, if we want to somehow, get that button we spoke of, we need to see how the brain works, because that's the whole purpose of, like, the whole strategy to putting stuff in the brain is to know how stuff is put in the brain. So how do we put stuff in the brain? Well, we are always putting stuff in the brain, and so the brain gets good at actually, I should note this down. Actually, I don't need to. Yeah, so we are always putting stuff in the brain, and our brain learns to stop taking things in, otherwise it'll get tired all the time. So it learns to filter things out. So we've gotten so good at filtering things out that we need to practice, well, putting stuff in and taking stuff out of our brain, right? So if we want to do that, one moment, there we go. If we want to practice putting stuff in, taking stuff out, then we have to do that. We have to put stuff in and take stuff out. That's how the brain would work. The more you do, I'll actually add this. Use it or lose it, or rather, use it to strengthen it. So just do the stuff that you gotta do in order to learn what you want to learn. So the main thing is honestly just to do the thing. So knowing that, and knowing that we want to, the only way to do this is to forget, consume, apply. Actually, let me put that up here. So consume, extract from self, or I don't know, eject. Consume, eject, forget. The cycle of strengthens the brain. And so anything that helps this thorough mindful extraction, consumption, thorough mindful extraction, forgestion, strengthens the brain. Anything that helps this process along. %. Actually, let me okay. 50% consumption, 50% thorough mindful extraction. Get to forget in order to enable to again. Long term. Anything that helps this process along will logically improve learning. So, okay, that's the brain. So, what do we do for teaching? So, how teach? I'll actually change this from how brain to how learn. So, how do we learn? Anything that will logically do any of these, we'll do that. And one more thing is okay, so reduce, what is that thing called? We want to see people who are, we logically want to have a situation where we not only do we want to help people practice encoding, like that's what the Feynman technique, that's what mind maps, all of those are just simply strategies of mindful extraction. So that's Feynman, mind map, and like it's Feynman or mind map, sure. This is like spaced repetition. And this is just taking notes, priming brain before consumption by having like an overview. So or even like honestly just like paying attention, alternative thinking, and alternative perspective thinking, application of thoughts. So there's a lot of different ways to consume an idea, but and so like I don't know exactly where I was going with that, but the point here is that you want to make brain good by doing things that you want brain to get good at, because that is how brain become good. So doing these things strengthens the brain. Anything that helps this process along logically improves learning. Well, how do we teach? Well, okay. How do we teach? We want to optimize the above. What optimizes the above? Well, okay, what hurdles are there? So hurdles, well, let's see. There's distraction. Well, you can both distract yourself by doing like doodling, by there's many ways to distract oneself. It's it's kind of the parcel and pack. That's just what happens in learning. The brain has a limited amount of space. Where was this? So we learned like how a person absorbs information, right? And we have this concept of multiple element interactivity. So hurdles. The brain has, what was it? Limited processing power? Limited element. It's, I suppose, mental bandwidth. There we go. Yeah. So we have limited mental bandwidth, right? So limited mental bandwidth, which means require hurdles plus hurdles, how to fix, right? If you want to fix these hurdles, what do we do? So we want to fix this hurdle of there being limited mental bandwidth, then we need to do something that helps it like not get full. How do we do that? Better ways to package ideas to reduce bandwidth usage. Yeah. So there's one element of how well your brain can parse things. There's one element of how parsed you receive it. So in that way, it's actually quite valuable that we're given both courses that are easy to package in our minds, as well as courses that suck and we have to like remember and rote learn it. Well, not rote learn as much as remember a lot of technical details. Both of those are very important skills to practice. So over here, what we have is limited mental bandwidth, better ways to package ideas to reduce bandwidth usage. How else can we reduce bandwidth usage? Let's see. So we have better ways to package ideas. We reduce mental bandwidth usage by, okay. So this has one more idea to it. Plus reduce bandwidth used on waste. So I suppose that's the first hurdle then. Limited mental bandwidth, right? And so for this, we have get better ways to package ideas such as metaphor. We have I don't know, images. We have, so essentially, wait, what this means is connecting to other senses is one of them. So what ways can we do that? That's like all 5 senses. That's like song, taste, like an anagram, I suppose. Not anagram. What are those called? The capital CIA is an anagram? No. What is that term? We have so like, oh, acronym. Oh, thanks, Gifted. There you go. Yeah, so an acronym, right? So an acronym is a great way to connect it to a sense because well, is it a great way to connect to sense? It's just a way of packaging an idea. It's not a sense. So I'll actually include that in just packaging. So either an acronym or connecting to other senses like a song. You can even associate a taste with something, like the idea that blood is metallic, right, in taste is a great way to remember that blood contains iron in it. But I mean, for us, we've been around that idea for so long that we just, take it for granted. But to many who don't know what blood consists of, it's a great way to map the idea. And so this type of idea mapping means you don't have to use mental bandwidth to remember this funky word called iron to, like, map to the idea of blood. having its taste. Also, hello Gifted. I got lost in the sauce. Okay, so what other senses can we connect to? What are the five senses? Um we have touch, we have taste, we have feel. Wait, now that's a bit of touch. Thanks. So okay, we have touch, we have taste, we have smell, we have uh hearing, which is sound, and we have um seeing, sight, right? Sight. So okay, so there's pictures we can associate with too. We can associate it with. There's texture, taste, smell, so texture but being touch in this case, and we can a sound or a song or even a sound bite, honestly. And we have sight, well, just picturing something, visual images. So if you there's many different ways to package ideas, right? And if we're able to package ideas that way, we can reduce mental bandwidth because usage of mental bandwidth, because we don't need to we can capture a lot of ideas within a very simple. But if there's 4 spaces for major concepts in a person's mind, it'll get filled up real quick if you tell them something like, oh, this is a 35-degree angled triangle that is actually somewhat like a tetrahedron, right? That's a lot of words. I said that sentence. You probably might not even end up remembering the start of it. Well, depends on the sentence. But yeah, but if I say it looks like a Pringle chip, right? That's going to be way easier to map. You'll be able to, like, if somebody says where are the curves with the first sentence, you're going to go like, oh man, like what do you mean curves? I wasn't even paying attention. Like, what is going on over here? But in this version where I mentioned a Pringle chip, it's just obvious. It requires no thinking that, something like that should have curves. So like the ability to map stuff like that to existing concepts in a person's head, or even if not an existing concept, an easy to map concept can make it easier for people to, fill that mental bandwidth space. So that's good. Yeah. Oh yeah. And then there's the other one. Okay. So we have limited mental bandwidth, right? But we also have wasted mental bandwidth. Now you're going to go like, I don't get the difference. They're the same. Right? But, you see, while we have those 4 spaces in our head, also let me pull my, I don't need to use a super zoomed in terminal. Let me pull it out here. There we go. Yeah. I don't know why I was on the super zoomed in terminal. Oh yeah, by the way, I got this nice little pencil thingy. Ooh. So anyways, where's my drawing thing? Let me pull that out. Let's make a new one. Yeah, it does. I was working on it earlier today. So, brain, how? So, where were we? Where's my, where are my notes? There they are. So, we have right. We know how to learn, which was consumption, mindful like extraction. Where's my pen? Pen. Come back. Pen. There you go. We have 1. Consumption. Oh, there is a weird thing with the pen, by the way. When I use my mouse, it works and makes sound as well. Consumption. But for some reason, it doesn't work with my like actual pen, which I have to troubleshoot. But you know what? We vibe with it. So we have consumption, we have mindful consumption, we have mindful extraction, gifted extraction. We have mindful extraction and Don't mind my writing. It's quite wonderful. Gifted mentioned. Let's go. The stream is saved. Okay. So, consumption, mindful extraction, and forgetting. And you'd go like, forgetting? That doesn't sound like a great learning technique. But you see, we are actually crippled by our short-term memory in a funny way. The better your short-term memory, the less runs you can let your long-term memory go on, right? Because it's like, if you have a machine that does something too well, the human loses the ability to do that thing, right? So if you have short-term memory that's incredibly gigachad awesome, your long-term memory will turn to garbage. So having bad short-term memory is actually a secret hack to getting better long-term memory and being able to, and having better long-term memory is associated with creativity, which is a fun little thing. So random fact, if you have bad short-term memory, this is actually a blessing for you. So anyways, yeah, this is how learn, right? And these two must be in balance. So 50-50 percentages. These two must be in balance, because if you're either like watching too many videos and never actually getting to drawing something, then you're not going to be good at art. But if you spend your entire time drawing and you never look at a single reference or never look back at your old art or never just follow any courses whatsoever, or not necessarily even courses, if you don't look out at nature and try to observe, actually do the studying process, which is, at many times observation. If a person stays stuck in their room and has nothing in their room and doesn't ever take time out to look at their room and just pumps out artwork after artwork, they'll only grow to a point, but their growth will be strongly stifled, because it'll be the same thing as a person in a comp game spamming games and just never looking or thinking about what they're doing wrong. Because, it's all about where your brain is, not what your hands are doing. I mean, it also is partly your hands, but you get the idea. It's one of the it's one of the things that play into it. So okay, yeah. We learn like that, and we want to teach. So how teach? Okay. The hurdles, I should write them down just to reiterate them. The hurdles was limited. I won't write the whole thing. Limited mental bandwidth, and we have wasted. So I talked about limited earlier, right? And the thing that wasted mental bandwidth, right, is that people often will distract themselves while studying. They're going to go like, oh yeah, I should listen to music while studying. That's going to help me focus. And they're not wrong, but they're not right either. Now, okay, picture this, okay? I have 15% of my energy being used listening to Spotify, right? Oh no, I can't. I have to move this thing. How do I move? One of these buttons going to move my screen. I don't want to use my mouse. Drag? No. Will this drag? No, that selects. Go gadget tablet button. Do the thing. Oh, I have to use my mouse. Sad. Okay, there we go. Wait, maybe the button does a different thing. Like if I press it twice. Maybe not. Maybe if I hold this thing down. Maybe if I circle this. God damn it. Maybe if I use my 2 fingers. Never mind. Okay, I have no idea how to move this with the tablet. So anyways, yeah. If I'm using 15% of my energy on Spotify, yeah? If 15% of my energy is going on Spotify, and 85% of my energy is going on studying, and that means I'm getting 85% throughput. Obviously, now you're gonna go like, yeah, so like, but I focus better with Spotify. And you know what? You're not wrong. So consider this alternative scenario. You are trying to study, and you happen to see, like, you happen to hear a car outside, and you hear the car outside, and you're like, man, I wish I was in a car. My homies are currently at this bar. They're drinking tar. I'm gonna go quite far. But anyways, so like you're thinking this stupid car, right? You're just lost in your thought thinking of the stupid car thing, right? And that's eating 35% of your energy, and you're spending 65% studying. You're gonna do something like that, you're gonna get screwed because, less bandwidth. So in this way, if you are a victim of this and you have observed that you are a victim of this, then Spotify will be more efficient, right? Because then you're getting more study throughput. While this is true, and that can be true, right? That Spotify is helping you focus, right? This is like option A, this is like option B. There exists an option C where you're Turbo Chad who learns how to not allow yourself to be lost for too long, and doesn't need music to study. So that Turbo Chad can probably pull out like 98%, 97%. So while things can help you focus, the brain uses some amount of energy in all multitasking. Now, that's not to say that, a person can or can't multitask. All it means is that how useful are you at 10% focus? That's what the skill of multitasking essentially is, right? How useful are you at 10% focus? Some people at 10% focus are abysmal. They are going to drop everything. They're going to not be able to hold a conversation. They're going to just like crash their car or whatever, right? But some people at 10% focus can do a lot. So it's all a matter of like, that just changes how well you perform at the floor. But studying, learning is not a floor task. It's a ceiling task. And as such, your skill with multitasking does not make you inherently better at studying. So if one wishes to master learning, they should try to practice their ceiling. And we don't have many things in life that make us practice the ceiling. So it's hard to like do when I'm saying practice the ceiling, right? What I mean is anything that requires you to cut from all external stimuli, which could be, you could do that with art, you could do that with like anything you want to learn, you could do that with a video game. If you like play with just the sounds of that video game and the music off, then you are theoretically going to have the highest amount of focus there. So, and without Spotify on. So like ceiling learning, pushing the ceiling of your ability to learn can really make a huge difference regarding how well you can learn. So anyways, we'll move back to the original thing, which is we have limited mental bandwidth. So package thoughts better. Which can be from priming, which means if you're like being told what to expect before you see it, the closer it is to what to expect, the less overwhelmed you'll feel when you actually see it, right? So if I tell you that, hey, in this course we'll be doing 4 chapters and all 4 of these chapters are like, funky words that you've never seen before. You see one chapter, you'll go like, oh Jesus, what Christ, what's happening? How is this related to the funky words I heard before? But if I literally map it something like this, if I'm like, this is freaking entomology, right? Because I was in a stream earlier watching somebody talk about entomology. And literally it's just mapped into see, eat, mate. These are the three things that a moth can do, right? And that's very simple. I can imagine that already. I might not know any like specifics, but if it's you tell me that these are the three chapters, easy peasy. I already I will not be overwhelmed by this at all, and I'll have a better I'll be primed for learning. So it'll save my mental space. So having limited bandwidth and being able to think, but not waste that space on stuff being presented in a complicated way means that you have more space to store stuff. That's good. So that was priming. What else did we have? I forgot. So we had priming, we had connection to other senses, and we had visual images. So, which is one of the senses. So senses and acronyms. So fun ways. These are some ways to package it better. Because now when I know CIA, I don't need to think of the freaking I don't know what CIA stands for. America cops people are doing this thing. I just have to say the CIA. Haha. So okay, wasted MB was the distraction one. So reduce. Oh yeah, Central Intelligence Agency. Nice. Yo, so okay, if you want to reduce less waste, so if you want less waste of brain, what we need to do is, well, reduce it. And okay, so remember how I mentioned Spotify earlier, right? So that Spotify over there is an example of replacing distraction. Now, we aren't machines. We can't just hack the brain and have it focus 100%. Not everybody is a monk who's spent ages just practicing the fine art of cutting from all worldly desires. People have worldly desires, and you are fighting against their brain to keep a hold on their brain and prevent them from drifting off into thinking of those. And so, how do you fight against it? You replace that. How do you replace it? It's not through some magic. It's not through anything unethical. All you gotta do is appeal to it, appease it. So what you do is, okay, get this. I have a funky concept, and I have to. This is some physics question, right? I have a projectile. I gotta fire this way. It's gonna land here, and people are like, oh, I hate this. It has numbers. Wow. I hate kinematics. Ugh. So, okay, someone sees this, someone's crying about kinematics because they hate math, because everyone taught them to hate math and now it's just a thing. And people are like, yeah, man, math sucks because I never learned it. So, and I'm valid in hating it. So, okay, someone sees that, all these thoughts come into their head. They're like, ooh, boo, boo. So, what do? There's a super easy way to solve this that a lot of professors end up using. Pick some, okay, so now I'm not saying bully someone in your class. This is, I'm saying you can say this in a way that's fun for everyone. Or even better, you can just not mention someone in your class, and actually, yeah, you can do this. So you can say, hey, okay, my, you can start with my dog, it released itself on the neighbor's porch. Now, I'm going to be throwing it to the dog pound. Now, my dog weighs 50 kg. Little Timmy here weighs 50 kg. Little Timmy has to go to the dog pound. How hard do I have to throw little Timmy from my porch to the dog pound for it to reach and go directly into the cage? and then I can add like 100 meters, etc. Right? I can add like all these. People are thinking of little Timmy. That distraction of little Timmy being thrown into the dog pound is going to keep them more engaged than the raw math itself, even though it's actually wasting some of their mental bandwidth. And what helps here is that little Timmy is ephemeral. He doesn't exist beyond this example. So if I send little Timmy off to the dog pound in this horrific fashion, I'll have gripped my students' attention the entire time, and they will have done this question. Not, they won't even be like, okay, you see, they'll be more ready to do future questions because they didn't allow themselves to fill their brain with like all of these thoughts of despair, dread, and fear about this math. Those thoughts, those emotions are important, and by teaching in a way that considers those emotions, either from engaging with them, which isn't always the correct strategy, or by distracting them, which isn't necessarily the correct strategy. You need to know what people you're working with. You, by knowing how to get around it rather than simply ignoring it, you can help people absorb more ideas, which is really important because it is a hurdle. A person can't say I'm the best teacher and suddenly just solve all hurdles by calling themselves the best. You gotta do what you gotta in order to really you need to actually present ideas in a way and hear out people's concerns and understand people's concerns, because sometimes they don't know them themselves, in order to actually address them and in order to deal with them. That's why in my written notes over here, you're gonna notice there's a very immediate mention of humility, because the more one sees themselves as a person who's got the answers, the more they close the door to questions. And when you stop thinking, even assuming you have all the answers, which is unlikely because nobody's that good, even assuming you have all the answers on a certain thing, the world adapts, the world grows, both the interactors as well as the thing being interacted with changes based off of when you're doing it, what you're doing, right? So in a world that's constantly changing, even the final correct answer won't remain correct forever. So it's so important to see oneself as an eternal student, because the moment you lose sight of yourself as a student, you will lose sight of the students, those who want to learn from you, those who want to absorb this information. Now, of course, there's percentiles everywhere. There's going to be shit students as well. There's going to be great students who don't even need you, and you're just like the person who has the book at that point. So there's going to be percentiles exist everywhere, and either we could run away from it, fear from it, or accept it. There's going to be people better than you, people worse than you. It's actually, by the way, just to avoid this popular Asian idea, humility is not simply to downplay one's achievements. That is a small part of humanity. And I'm not advocating for downplaying one's achievements. Humility is both understanding how far you are from the floor and how far you are from the ceiling. It's not one or the other. Most people only look at the ceiling component. They're like, oh, I'm not a great artist. I might be like the best artist in my country, but I'm not the best artist in the world. And I mean, they're right, but to torment and beat yourself up over it is to either have such an inflated picture of yourself where you should be the number one, or to have or to really struggle because you aren't able to appreciate how far you are from the floor. So to make peace with both is very important. To make peace with and it's not wrong to picture a version of yourself that's better than you are, but it's wrong to, I suppose, give it weight that crushes who you are today. Because it's possible for both your future self in your head and your present self to coexist. One does not need to devour the other. So anyways, where were we? Yeah, so being a humble teacher is what helps you connect, and by connecting to people, can you really get through the problem of wasted bandwidth. And let's see, where were we? What have we not mentioned? This is term multiple element interactivity, which actually I should be adding in here as well, which is that this concept of packaging better actually has that. So less multiple element interactivity, ideas, or spaced multiple interactivity ideas. Because see, ideas that are very loaded will blow your brain up really fast. So the best way to present those ideas is to kind of take the edge off of it, unless you have to teach it all in one go, in which case it would become more of an overview rather than a teach, which would mean that after giving the overview, you'd probably need to give them like assignments or something to go over the specifics rather than just, you know, them learning all of it all at once. And that's actually, unfortunately, the meta in teaching right now, where they're like, oh yeah, we teachers are just there to give them an overview. We give them an overview and they study on their own. And that's how we teach them. But that's not how teaching, that's not all there is to teaching. There's so much more that goes into it. But it's unfortunate how most teachers just, you know, follow the meta. Meta slaving is not the best for any vocation. Okay, so where were we? Yes, now that we've gone through all of that, have we fully caught up to our notes? Yeah, pretty much. Let's see. Community practice exams are a great way to discipline or accountability. Help your discipline. Oh yeah, I wanna just go over the important realities of life that we have to accept, just so that we, you know, or rather just to refresh that idea. The important realities of life are that, one, we are all victims of some level of ego. It's unavoidable. And so having some level of ego means that on average, we will have at least slightly deviated self-assessment. The more ego, and by the way, when I say ego, I just want to make it clear, I mean both the distance towards the floor and distance towards the ceiling. So, like, compared to where you actually are. So ego can also mean hating yourself and thinking you are some kind of scum of the earth, when in actuality you're just some average 50 percentile, right? So self-hate is a type of ego. So people generally have poor self-assessment because of some kind of ego. And honestly, us as human beings, like all of us, like even the ones who are experts in their field, we all know very little about anything, really. I mean, of course, there's scales to how much we know, right? Because, of course, everything falls on a percentile. But even the 100th percentile knower actually doesn't know all that much in the grand scheme of things. So even the 100th percentile knower should not see themselves as a teacher of all things, rather still a student who has much to learn, because there is always much to learn. And Yeah, and it's important to just like hope and trust in frameworks that can kind of help us understand more, right? Because if I was the number one physicist on the planet, right, and I came across my research, like all the publications I did from my activities, people can't just trust everything I have to say from then on and let me let me permanently be the voice of physics just because I've attained that level once. Life goes on, and every action, like, every action in the future reflects upon you. So once a person is this type of like genius, or this accomplished, they have they still have to follow the same processes they followed up to this point in order to improve their understanding, iterate upon what they already know, and learn. And we have to just do, because not doing produces no results. Those are the hard truths of life for learning, which is mostly just like, drop the ego and do. That's the summary of all 5 of these points. And nobody can just drop the ego, so of course, yeah, that's like a statement that's more just to say that a person should try their best to function in spite of their ego rather than simply just conquer it, because conquering it is a lifelong journey. Anyways, so we know about how to learn, we know about the major hurdles that are being faced in learning, right? And we're not going to talk about the social stuff like bullying, etc., because that stuff's outside of our domain. So how do we teach? Now, there was a fun little thing here. There's actually a conversation going on about this wasted mental bandwidth thing, right? Part of what makes people waste mental bandwidth is that they don't care about the lecture because they don't care about the teacher. So becoming a teacher that people care more about will make them listen to you more, which is kind of why people are very receptive to like learning from YouTube videos, because they already care about the content creator they're learning from, because they generally have a positive opinion of them, which is not quite guaranteed with teachers. So, and then there's also this thing that plays into it, that teachers they have a very important responsibility to students, because they have to take up a lot of parent-like roles, because they have to deal with each individual student in a fair way, and doing that is very difficult. So, I don't know how much I can go into that, but what we're going to do is we're going to keep it in mind as we go into research and figure out, what the plan is. So, we are now going to finally enter our browser. Browser? Browser, where'd you go? Come back, browser. Browser. Windows BitBit and Windows 10. Boom, there we go. Yes, okay. Excuse me. Give me back the right side of my screen. Thank you. Okay. Yeah, okay, there we go. So before I do anything else, why'd this randomly load? Anyways, yeah, so I opened a few papers in the last stream to mark where we are, where we're gonna start looking into stuff from. So, my job right now is to make the scary words go away. There's lots of scary words in this, and we're gonna undo the scary words. So, let me do something to spice this up a bit. Where's my... I'm gonna have to move something from one place to another in my scenes. So give me a moment. This and this. And now I hit it with a Show yourself. Boom. Oh shit. Is that in the center? That's not in the center. But that is in the center. But okay, wait. This is gonna be scuffed because I have to do a very, very small thing and give it some kind of background because otherwise it's going to blow my eyes. So let's see. Technical difficulties, or maybe not exactly technical difficulties, but we'll be fine. Wait, let's see. Let's give it something juicy. Let's 25 opacity. Sure. And then I do the same thing with this one. In the meanwhile, there's I'll just mention this, like what the article is about first. Inclusive and active pedagogies. Okay, so pedagogy means like teaching styles. So being having more inclusive and active teaching styles end up making all students perform at more equal levels and also improve their long-term performance. Neat. It's because good students will do good regardless, bad students will do bad regardless, but how bad students can do like is strongly limited. So the bottom 10 percentile of students will fail regardless, or at least underperform regardless, but everyone from like the 10th to the 60th percentile is genuinely trying, but they don't want to put any effort in. So if you're able to pull them all up and you're able to just move that, it no longer becomes normally distributed across like the 60th, 70th percentage area. It gets pushed further up. So yeah, helping bad student not be bad will make thing good. Yes. So anyways, here's the background for this, and now, okay, boom. Oh shit, no. Boom. Where's the background? I did a background. Excuse you. Boom. There we go. Wait, this still looks weird. Why is it weird? What's your problem? God damn it. Okay. I'll give it an outline. Haha. That will make it more readable. And I will make this outline big and chunky. Boom. Readable? Good enough, I guess. And I will do the same for the other one, which will be replacing this at some point. Yes, mine not the scuff. It is simply the rite of passage. There we go. Okay. There we go. That's our Pomodoro timer. I wish I could write Pomodoro somewhere. Or can I? Wait. I got this. So I copy this. And then I paste, but by duplicate. Come on, paste duplicate. OBS. Do not test me. Okay, where are you? Here you are. And I change this to Pomodoro title, and I replace its text with freaking I don't know, Pomodoro. Boom. And now I move this down. Please move down. Okay, there we go. It's moving. Boom. It's moved. Okay. Yeah, there we go. That should hopefully be fine. Transform, copy transform, put it on the stop timer, paste transform on the stop timer. And okay, I think we should be good. Nice. Yeah, we spent the whole Pomodoro just setting up the Pomodoro. That's how we focus, don't you know? And I am going to make the track a little jazzier but lower the volume. Nice. And now we get to the paper. Let's do this. Also, I'm going to become bigger. Yes, I'm the all-consuming. All right, okay, let's see. So apparently, caring more about students will make students do better. Who would have thunk? So let's see. We looked at how giving a shit makes a difference in some big uni in Northeast US. They compared these with other people for 5 years. We compared these 5 years with the previous 5 years as well. Damn, that's thorough. Also, we tracked their performance and the performance of places where we taught properly compared to where we taught them more conventionally. And we continue tracking them in the future once they were done with our funky type of learning. Ooh. So people who were taught while giving a care about them ended up scoring better. And then itinerary section narrowed the ethnic performance gap. Ooh, okay, that's an interesting thing. So, actually teaching a student something correctly once forever raises their floor by a certain amount. I mean, not for all students, but for a lot of students, showing them what studying can be like can completely change the way that they learn. That's so cool. It makes sense, but holy crap. So having this suggests that if you have at least one really good teacher for a type of course that's based off of like learning and improving something, or maybe something technical, right? If the teacher is able to teach you how that technical information is converted to a form that's normal to understand, and you're able to learn that, you will forever be able to use that for all future technical courses, which is very interesting. So, wow, giving shit's useful. So, okay. Where'd my jazz go? Bring it back. Hell yeah. I love my jazzy Deltarune music. There we go. Okay. So, students who matriculated into the inclusively taught section of biology, blah blah blah, they perform better in their second semester than other students. So okay, yeah, these when people learn to study better, they study better, as you would expect. Maybe I should note that down. I should note it down, yeah. So, this will go into the papers section, I suppose. 3 learnings. And so, when people learn to study better, they continue to study better. Teachers are important. And you know the interesting thing about this, I have actually observed this firsthand, where when someone went to school, right, and they wanted to prepare for some big exams, people who went to good tuition teachers, even when they were no longer taking tuitions, they had learned how to process information differently. And they ended up doing activities such as using flashcards and, you know, using a highlighter. And it's kind of like these tools exist, and obviously you can Google them, but when you learn how to use them and you're tested on your ability to use them, you kind of actually manage to organically grow and learn in its usage, which is very interesting. And seeing it play in there is very cool. So right, yeah, where were we? Drivers of this change come from multiple directions. One was the plethora of federal reports, blah blah blah. Okay. In the last 2 decades, we've been trying to figure out how to learn or improve teaching. And we're trying to make it more student-centered and try to match how humans learn. Ooh, they've mentioned an article here. Is it about how humans learn? Borrego, Mora, and Henderson Charles increasing the use of... This is delicious. Nice. Okay. I like that. That's cool. Oi, give me back my article. Oh shit, I have 3 of these open. Excuse me. File. I demand your attention. File. Okay, good. Return to whence you came. Wonderful. So, where were we? Yes. Okay, there is lots of ways that it got better. There are reports asking for upgrades for how it's administered. What do they mean by that? They mean vision change in undergrad biology. Ooh, this is also cool. Transforming undergrad education for future research by biologists. Okay, I'm gonna avoid opening more links before I drown. So I'm just gonna accept that these people have cited some very spicy things. So, okay. In part as a need to address a workforce that was increasingly requiring more and more STEM professionals. Another was the great attention being paid to the academic performance gaps between white students and, okay, yeah, people from other countries or people from poorer, like, neighborhoods, which, of course, statistically speaking, would be minorities in the US, end up seeing a lot of improvement once they actually experience a good teacher. Hello, Jade. Nice to see you. Nice to see you. I hope your stream went well. So, just being like taught properly once makes a huge difference. So there's a large body of evidence suggesting both active learning and inclusive practices. Oh, so actually making students participate in learning to some degree, taking any responsibility regarding themselves at all, makes a huge difference. Which makes sense, because like, why would you give a shit about a course which you're not, like, you know, which you literally could not show up to class for and it would just go on its own? I mean, you would care because of your grade, but you're given very little incentive to, right? But now, if you somehow manage to package this in a way where you can, like, see, if you manage to package it in a way where students actually feel like they're part of it and that they're responsible in actually, you know, creating good academic outcomes, actually learning and actually getting a grade, then they'll do better because they feel included, because the basest human impulse is the pull towards some kind of community, and that's, well, very easy to leverage. So let's add this here. Leveraging students' need for community is a powerful way to have them to increase their internal locus of control. So what this YAP means is, if you're able to show students that they can do something about actually learning, then they'll not only actually do something because they feel like they're responsible, but they will also realize, oh shit, I can do things that lead to me passing this course. It's not hopeless. I should not go play like freaking rugby at the time this class is happening, because like I can do it. I can prove myself. I can see who I am, learn who I am. I don't need to run from myself. And yeah, rugby's pretty damn awesome. But like, if you teach them to actually, do something about their lives, then and you show them how easy it is to do something about their lives, they'll do something about their lives, because people want good outcomes. And so, yeah, that's awesome. And putting it in actually leveraging their need for social connection for this is very powerful. Now, okay, it's not manipulating to use people's motivations. It's simply how motivating someone works. Because otherwise, technically, you'd be, well, you know what? Guidance, and if you really get into it, both guidance and motivation are positive versions of, well, guidance is positive, motivation is neutral, but technically everything that changes the other person's action is manipulating them. So the word manipulating is negative inherently, but like if you really think of manipulating as just making someone do something, the fire in my soul shall guide me. Mostly impulses, but guidance either way. Yeah. So if you like tell someone to get you a bottle of water, right? You have effectively made them stand up and bring you a bottle of water. And that's manipulation in a way, but that the word is just like really corrupted, so that's why it feels weird to say, right? And it's not guidance either, because like if you say, if you bring a bottle of water, you will help me not die, that would be more guidance, because it's based in logic. In the movie Inception, it's planting idea. Yeah, if you manage to plant an idea into someone's head, then it leads them to some kind of action. And any kind of action is, well, depends on what the intent is and what the action is, what word you decide to use for it. But either way, all of them are the same. You make people do thing. And so in academics, you want to make student do thing. And how do you make student do thing? Well, put idea in head. Put idea in head. What idea in head? I need some kind of idea. So me, the student, someone tells me I can actually ace this course if I do these 3 simple steps. I'd go like, hell yeah, bro, like sign me up. And then when they tell me those 3 simple steps is to finish a project, I'm like, okay, that's not that bad. I can imagine finishing a project. And then when they tell me that project goes over 8 months, I'm like, okay, I'm not feeling it so much anymore. What do I need to do past this course? And then they tell me that project actually is $100,000 of value, but like I'm getting none of it, then I'm gonna go, hell no. So anyways, my whole point here is that you need to motivate students, you need to guide students, or you need to do anything that puts an idea in their head and pushes them to action, as long as it's not evil, malicious, negative. So make them care about themselves through many means, not any means necessary, just any, like most okay means, like, yeah. So yeah, make students care. So where were we? So like, when people were talking about strategies to try and make students care, well, the hurdle they ran into was like, okay, what are these strategies? Which of these are part of the strategies and which of them aren't? We have all these funky words, but like, where do they come in? It's too vague. All the media we have on it is too vague. We use this word active learning, and you think it's like, wow, what is this? Get them to ask questions. Wow, but what about people who are shy? There's other types of active learning made for them. What happens if we ask questions and interrupt the lecture because we keep asking questions? We need some kind of structure. Why there's so many complications? Because they didn't think this far, man. Like, I mean, some of them did, but then other people didn't agree, and so we have just this like hosh posh mess on the internet called active learning, and like we know it's generally a good thing, but whether it's like what exactly it is still up for debate. But ultimately, it's just like, you know, make them do something. Make them not just like sit there and breathe, like mouth breathe the entire lecture. So anyways, how do we make them care? Oh wow. One of the types of active learning is just no lecture at all, but just a discussion. That's cool. That sounds very fun. Yeah, so anyways, with so many such widely different definitions of what active learning is, like saying, hey, use active learning becomes very difficult because we sucked at making like words that are defined and don't share meaning. So anyways, we got to use it in K-12 literature. And it's only recently being used more in higher education. Unfortunate. Epistemological uncertainty. Epistemological uncertainty results in practitioners having a hard time knowing or deciding what method. Oh, okay. So they don't know which one to use because there's issues in some and there's issues in some. I let the dateline kick my gear. The dateline? Oh, jeez. I assume you mean the calendar dateline and not phone dateline. What is a phone date? What is a dateline? Let me actually see the definition of it. What is a dateline? I swear to God, if anything sus comes up, I'm pressing Control W. It's a reality legal shows broadcast on NBC. Ooh. It's a show where people date. Ah, okay. For a sec, I thought it was like this like line on the calendar that marks like what day it is, and so that would make like push you to action based off of what's happening. Because I was still thinking in the academic context there. Ooh, okay, yeah, you are saying what I'm thinking. Yeah. Okay, I completely understand that then. Yeah, it's I have been I've been responsible for that quite a lot. I've done the exact same thing where I'm like, oh shit, there's 2 hours left. I gotta crunch, man. The closer I am to a deadline, the more powerful I become. That's called having a motivator. There's this. Actually, let me show you this acronym. So okay, this is not me saying whether anyone has ADHD or doesn't, right? That's for a therapist to figure out. But there are a lot of comorbidities between people with ADHD and a lot of people in society, right? Well, comorbidity is the wrong word. A lot of shared symptoms. Acronym. Yes. Gifted told me earlier, so I remember the word acronym. Haha. So yeah, where is it? ADHD. So, show me the acronym. Show me the darn acronym. There we go. Yeah, okay, here you go. So, if you look at this, you're gonna find that when you're dealing with like low motivation generally in life, right? You're going to find these to be the bottom line of motivation. So, okay, your course, right? If your course was literally just to like make a like code something that's haha funny meme, you would be a lot more motivated to actually get done earlier, especially when people are sharing it earlier, right? If you can see people's outputs like a month in and it's really funny, you are probably going to finish the project way before its deadline because other people are sharing funny stuff and you don't want to miss out. That's where passion and play comes in. So, because play requires output and being able to see constant output is literally like one of the biggest motivators for an ADHD person, or generally for people with low ability to control their focus. The second is interest. If you think something's cool, you'll do it. Novelty is the same thing. If you think something's cool, not just because you think it's usually cool, but because it's cool right now, so you're more likely to do it. Competition, challenge, and cooperation plays into that exact same thing I was talking about earlier, which is if you see stuff where you can interact with others and kind of just like, yeah, art is cool, that's why I grind 7 hours a day. Yeah, hey, okay, look. If there's anything I've learned from all of this, it's that if you are grinding 7 hours a day, at least do 3.5 hours of study and 3.5 hours of actual art, or free roam art, instead of just 7 hours of focused, your course. Because otherwise you're not going to be pulling from your long-term memory. You both have to... Yeah, it's fine for you to get immersed in it. Sometimes that just happens. Nice, that's good. That means you're focused. But you know how in a competitive game, I can technically play 10 hours of Valorant, right? It's the same. Actually, yeah, we had that conversation earlier. Just make sure you're not the dude who's grinding 17 games of Valorant a day. Keep yourself the dude who plays 3 or 4 matches, but meaningful matches. Not to say do a thing less. You could technically play 8 matches and then also watch 8 matches worth of content, right? But the point here is you want to process as much as you're doing and not do either of them in an extreme. Yeah, 1.5 hour for Val is literally an expected amount of time for you to focus. So you're literally playing Val for as long as you can focus, which is pretty sick because it means you're actually playing properly, which translates over so cleanly to your climb because it just makes logical sense. So, anyways, the reason you feel like you become superhuman when you're about to hit a schedule, hit a deadline, is because it's the last motivator. Negative consequences are the final motivator. If you don't do something, you die, is the final motivator after the first 30 things, which is oh, hey, oh yeah, the lock-in mode, yeah. Oh, how'd your stream go? Did you get, is it over? Oh yeah, that's not a great place to be, dude. Having to just survive, having to survive that way in academia is rough. And I was stupid enough to do it too because I didn't know better. Deadline to deadline is the worst way to live life, dude. You know the worst part? The worst part is you like to do you feel like you can, the things that you like, you can do long hours of. Yeah, that's fine. But in terms of, okay, so the thing with the saying that you can do long hours of something you like, right? You have to consider, okay, if you're doing it just because you like it, that's fine. But if you're considering how much you want to grow in that thing, then unfortunately the 50-50 rule comes into play, where it needs to be based off of some kind of learning and doing. In fact, actually, so I was hanging out at Eris's stream recently, right? And she actually fits this to a T in one way. So get this. She was doing pixel art, right? And in pixel art, the skill of studying, right? Let me actually switch to concepts over here. So you see this 50% consumption, 50% mindful extraction, right? So what she was doing is looking at references to essentially consume, right? She's looking at pictures of moths, right? Oh, hey, same. Yeah, her shorts are great. So, she was looking at, yeah, see-through arms. Ooh. I was really proud of what I did. In fact, by the way, Eris is one of my Oshis, so you're gonna notice that on this bat thingy, right? The eyes. Okay, so I've colored the wings based off of my two Oshis, one of which is Eris. And so you can see the Eris color, eye color, and the hair color on the right side. That's cool. Anyways, where was I? Yes. So yeah, I really loved working on this. So, okay, where was I? Yeah, so what she was doing earlier in stream, right? She was looking at pictures of moths, right, in real life as well as in media, and she was trying to replicate it, which is both a degree of consumption as well as some degree of, actually it's full consumption. She's processing how to think about something like that, right? And it's a wee bit of mindful extraction because she's pulling on her fundamentals for pixel art to actually map over to what the moth looks like and what it's doing, right? So what she was doing was essentially, quote unquote, the best way to, like, one of the best ways to learn something. And so that's, I mean, her viewers will end up not getting all of that because they're not, working along, which they should. I mean, she never told them not to, but like the point is that she herself manages to cover both of these. And if you also do that, if you like do art alongside the people that you're watching, you too can be part of this luxurious group of learning things well. And so right, yeah, wait, let me send that shout out. Did it go through? Is that how Twitch works? Did I do it? Did it work? Is that supposed to be something I'm supposed to set up myself? Shout out. Oh, there we go. There we go. I figured it out, guys. I figured it out. Okay. So. This general idea of like seeing things, understanding things, and then trying to map it in different ways. Yeah, pro streamer. Where I need to get sunglasses. I need to, you see. Thanks. I should note that. Where's my? Oh shit. I'm gonna write it on pen and paper because I need to note it separately. Where's my stuff? Come back. Pen and paper. Okay, one moment. I need to note this down, and it's very important that I do because I will forget. So, right, what was I noting down? Yeah, I'll get that. Yeah, so, where is my... There's this thing, there's a stream toggles, and I'm gonna say, cool guy glasses. Yeah, okay, there we go. Okay, yes. So, where was I? Yeah, so if you practice actually pulling things out from long-term memory and then you practice studying what you're looking at, then you can learn a lot. And that's something that I got to observe from Eris's stream. In fact, I was sitting there with Asprite open, trying to mimic what she was doing to try and practice exactly this because I want to get good at pixel art. And so what better way to get good at pixel art than sitting in a friend's stream and mimicking them? Okay, so I like, yeah, if you like this, I was saying this to Jade earlier, even if you can focus on something for 7 hours in this art of mindful extraction, and that's good to do as well, just remember that the farther you go off of this pace in the scope of, like, I suppose 4 days, the more you move away from 50-50 in these in the scope of like 4 days to a week based on how your long-term memory is, the lower your XP multiplier gets. And the lower your XP multiplier gets, the less you're actually learning from the thing. So if your goal is to improve at it, then you want to keep that XP multiplier topped up. But if your goal is just to have fun and stay motivated, and if you feel that just doing it for longer sessions is keeping you motivated, then Godspeed. So that's essentially what I was building up from. And yeah, it's cool to see how in my circles there are people who have just like natively understood this because it just worked for them, and only for it to be scientifically backed later. So that's cool. That's really cool. Oh yeah, in fact, hey, I was thinking of your stream while I was talking, completely unrelated to your stream, right? And I talked about how so there's this concept of multiple what was it? Multiple element interactivity, right? My hand shall memorize all the it shall memorize all the pencil strokes. Yeah, muscle memory is very useful to like grow. Especially when it's muscle memory for good things rather than stuff you have to work out of your system. So yeah, this is concept, guys, of multiple element interactivity, and the idea behind it was that if you have information that's very loaded, it's gonna like make you shit your pants. So if you have info like, oh hey, the 37th November of the fortnight, August 17th, I don't know, just like, and just lots and lots of numbers and ideas, the pulmonary gland releases hydrochloric peroxide into whatever. Yeah, just you see all these words, it's gonna space your brain immediately. But if you're able to, the numbers, Mason, what do they mean? If you are able to present, like if I show that in like an overview for a course, right? It would look like, you know, one like the role of the pulmonary gland, etc., whatever, right? Yeah, just like funky shit. And I don't want them to get overwhelmed by that. I can do something like this. The simpler I keep these ideas, the more room there is for people in their head to like absorb this. So when I say, if I say entomology deals with the digestive systems and the function and the mating of these insects of the Phylocardia species, that's too much. But if I say it's about insect and the chapters are organized as what they see, what they eat, how they mate, that's very intuitive. It just makes sense. And you're like, yeah, okay, sure, boss, what's up? What's next? And that's awesome. That's so cool. Like, to be able to do this for a person means that you have a role to play in their processing, in the way that they see the world, in the way that they absorb information. And that's cool. That's so cool. And this is kind of like one of the roles of a teacher. So for those of you who came slightly later, give a quick rundown. We learn by doing this, right? The stuff I was talking about. We take information in, we pull information out, and we don't rely on short-term memory too much, though short-term memory can also be improved if we want to keep maxing out long-term memory. So just like, you know, keep like a day or something between studying, or you know, just like study on a different topic the next day, or like, you know, space learning or space repetition. So just like do things first, like study things and then release stuff from your memory and do stuff from your memory. So doing that makes you good at both, at absorbing information as well as releasing that information. And the biggest hurdles were that we are bad at packaging stuff we're taking in, because if somebody tells you, oh yes, the red substance that comes out of human beings, of the species, whatever, it contains iron 2-phosphate, which you hear all that brain rot. But taste of iron in blood, the knowing that blood tastes like iron is sufficient to help you fully understand that blood contains iron. And if you have worked with Rust before, knowing that oxygenated iron turns like reddish, which you might know from Minecraft, is going to allow you to like understand that oxygen in the blood would make it red. And this type of like mapping it's so magical how it works, because if you're able to map something like that, right, it takes no bandwidth to store that info, where it would take bandwidth if I went into the chemicals. Please don't do chemistry. I mean, do it, but like don't do it without good strategy. Otherwise, you will be very you will be in pain. Okay, so sorry. I make myself laugh from nothing. So, hey, look, if you're doing chemistry the way you're doing pixel art right now, you'd be fine. I hope. Depends. Did you learn that this strats because of pixel art? Because if you did, then chemistry would have been real fun. I'm sure you'd figure it out. So anyways, yeah. So being able to package these things in the first place, right, is hard for a student. At least not until they've had some time to interact with it, right? So if your goal is to try and help students like just ingest a topic ASAP, and you actually want them to remember it, you're going to need to find creative ways to package it in ways that incorporate their brain, the parts of their brain they're more comfortable with. If you rest a heavy idea on top of another idea they're kind of unsure about, they're gonna feel like shit. They're gonna zone out so fast, and they're gonna start getting distracted. But if you say it's like breathing, or I don't know, it's like, oh yeah, that's actually one of the points. So you were talking about how some teachers make songs for learning, right? That means you've gotten to experience this. So wait, actually, I have an idea. Since I've written my notes in that color, I'm going to not white, cringe. Give me nice purple, magenta. Yeah, sure, magenta. So, if you want these ideas to be packaged into your brain, incorporating your senses is a great way to connect those ideas to things that you're very comfortable with, right? So humans are very comfortable with the idea of hearing sounds because they've been hearing sounds all their life. This is something you're used to, right? So if they can make a tune map to what you expect music to sound like, then you have a number of subconscious mental mappings that are able to help remember that thing. And that's so cool because, okay, some of you are going to think that, hey, look, I don't listen to music. How would I know what music is supposed to sound like? Well, if I play some random notes right now, you're going to know what music's not supposed to sound like. Which means you know what music's supposed to sound like. Just... oh man. Radical dreamers. Yeah, you dude, honestly, literally, if you're able to somehow map it to a song that you really love from a game, then the thing is, trying to actually convert it to that form is going to be kind of hard. But if you're able to do it, it's going to stay in your brain forever. Actually, you know what? I once learned the periodic table because of this one song that like some YouTuber named ASAP Science shared. Hydrogen, helium, lithium, beryllium, carbon. I don't remember anymore. But anyways, I did it because I got like so annoyed at forgetting the names of elements that I just learned the whole table, Lamau. And I have bad memory, by the way. Oh my god, wait. I wonder, was the song that you were referring to actually your chemistry teacher as well? Because if not, that would have been so cool. I mean, if so, that's so cool. So yeah, this concept of packaging ideas better is one of the responsibilities of a teacher. Well, okay, not responsibilities as much, it depends on what they hope to accomplish. To teach you to package your own information is itself a skill development, right? But to actually go through the process, like to actually just receive information packaged, ends up testing different things. It's how well you balance all of these different packaged information bits and, like, you know, learn all of those and give all of those. It's a lot of things that come into play. All this really means is brain process things in, and teachers have to help student get good. Getting good both includes actually learning the stuff on the syllabus and so I was showing Gifted this earlier. Hey Jade, check this out. So there's this example, right? I was giving this example. So okay, so I was talking about how so wait, I'm gonna slow down here just to build it up. So get this. The two hurdles that exist for students is one, limited bandwidth. They only have a certain amount of space in their brain, and if it's full, they start, like, you know, not being able to absorb as much, which is why a lot of the academic meta right now is just they give you an overview and then they give you assignments so you can actually learn the thing. But hurdle number 2 is wasted mental bandwidth. They're gonna go like, what's wasted mental bandwidth? Now get this. There's a dude who says they focus better on their work when they're listening to Spotify in the background, right? They're like, music helps me focus. And while we the researchers know that mathematically that's untrue in terms of just the way the mental bandwidth works, there is something here. It's the student isn't lying. They just understand, they just know what's working. So when I'm saying that, what I mean is, if you see this student A, right? Their focus is 15% on Spotify and 85% on studying. That's 85 is a good number. That same student without Spotify might start zoning out. They're gonna like hear the car in the background and they're gonna go like, man, my friends and I, we can take this car to the bar. It'd go really far. I'm gonna go drink tar, right? So they're gonna be thinking stupid stuff like that, and that's gonna take more of their space because they're gonna start visualizing it. And so this type of waste of bandwidth actually makes this 15% over here an opportunity cost. So they're technically correct that Spotify is helping them focus because the opportunity cost is this. And so it's helping them focus because it's making this number go up. And then that means that helps them. That's cool. Compared to Chad Machag, the Tibetan monk here, who is able to become like, you know, have complete mental peace and study at 98% of their focus level. This guy's built different. We don't have to be this guy. But this is something we can reach if we really want to. I mean, not that we ever have to in our lives, but if you want to. So, all of this is to say that we waste a lot of mental bandwidth on our own fantasizing of like whatever the hell we want to think of while we're studying. Some people doodle, some people just like, I don't know, watch Subway Surfers on the side. Can't spell jaded without jade. So, oh, hey, by the way, random thing I realized from this, right? You see how this is 1585, right? You know, Gen Z, right? They have something similar. Except this also functions when you have the phone muted. Which means this is literally the evolution of listening to Spotify while you study. It might even be more efficient because you can hear your thoughts and you can't silence your thoughts with Subway Surfer because it's too benign to do that. Music can have variance, Subway Surfer cannot. So these Gen Z kids have actually outgrown us. Exactly. Fidget toys actually fit that as well, where because they're distracting, small distraction helps you stay away from big distraction. And that's so cool. It's so interesting. And to this is actually used by some better teachers. So okay, if I am Mr. Boring Teacher A, I'm like, okay, class, this is a kinematics question. I have a graph. I am firing a projectile from start location of whatever meters, and it's going here, and then it goes down here, and then it lands somewhere. Where does it land? A student wants to literally boil that teacher hearing that. They're like, or they're like, oh my god, math, my brain. Everybody on social media says that you can either be an art person or a math person. They must be true. I have no hope. I am so garbage. I can't possibly do this. I wasn't built for math. Math and I don't get along. But like, that same student can be brought to Mr. Teacher B, and Mr. Teacher B goes like, they start by saying, hey guys, I have a dog, very nice dog. His name's Little Timmy. It looks like a squirrel because he's ugly, but Mr. Timmy, you see, he he shat on the neighbor's porch. So I'm going to make you guys a structure. Template. So you see, I'm going to make this structure. You see, this must be some kinds of tail. Timmy. Wait. I made a toggle for this. Get this. But wait, did my toggle work? Maybe not. Huh. Oh well. So yeah. So it might have worked, might have not. I think the fan in the background is probably messing with it. So anyways, so yes, Little Timmy has shat on the neighbor's porch, and as such, here is me, the professor, and I was in baseball back in the day, and Little Timmy, how hard do I have to chuck Little Timmy to toss him straight to the dog pound into a little box? And so, and I am standing at 20 meters, and this is at 100 meters, and it goes at 35 meters per second. I don't remember physics for shit, so I mean, I do remember, but like, I don't remember how much meters per second is in real life. But anyways, Little Timmy's getting chucked at 35 meters per second and angle of 35 degrees to the dog pound, right? Students are way more engaged with this. Look, even though I wasted some of their bandwidth on this whole story about Little Timmy and the dog pound, right? I replaced their bandwidth. I replaced what would have been a distraction, which is the music in their head, or like thinking of going to the pub with their friends to drink tar in the car. That's very far from the school, because it's cool. Anyways, you replace that wasted mental bandwidth with a story, and so students are more involved because they genuinely want to find out how far poor sad Little Timmy has to be chucked to go straight to the dog pound. I assure you, Little Timmy will get his revenge someday. But but you see, the the students need to know. They need answers. How far did Little Timmy have to get chucked to make it to the dog pound? How far is that dog pound? How will we save Little Timmy? Find out in the next episode of Dragon Ball Z. Anyways, yeah, so see, that's the idea that oh wait, shit, my timer. Oh, actually, I kind of, okay, so I was supposed to have this going on, right? But I forgot about it. So I'm glad I told the little Timmy story because that's kind of the distraction, the rest period of our Pomodoro. So you know what we're gonna do? We are going to be jumping right back into the where is it? The active Pomodoro. Yay! We wasted the right amount of time. Well done, guys. One moment, let me fix my browser because it breaks. Oi, browser, come back. Browser, browser. There we go. Snake. Huh? That is the hope, but I, I'll see when I manage to keep up with it. Okay, so, anyways. Oh yeah, one more thing you guys must have missed. Ooh. Yeah, a lot of co-working streams, they actually end up doing this, where they want to use Pomodoros in order to focus. So, or rather to stay on track. So, what we went through so far on this is basically that like students who are, even students who suck, but like don't turbo suck, they can end up like functioning a lot better when they actually like have a good teacher, and they continue to function better after having had a good teacher once before in their life. And that's actually pretty crazy. And so a lot of our ability to absorb information is from having good teachers in the past, and that's so cool. Which means if have any of you guys ever had a math teacher that you're really happy to have, like a math teacher you really looked up to? Because if so, I have some follow-up questions. So hey, yeah, Gifted. So Gifted, when was that math teacher? When, like, where was it in like grade 5, 6-ish, or was it closer to like college or high school? Where exactly did it fall in your life? One, ooh, in your very last semester. Nice. So, an interesting situation that can be caused by having a professor like that is that when you learn to kind of love the course that way, or to process whatever they're teaching in a different way, that kind of stays with you. And even if you don't have that exact type of information conversion, there'll always be a part of your mind that's thinking of like, hey man, if my old teacher was teaching this, I wonder how they would have approached it. And that I wonder in your brain is such a powerful seed for creativity, for actually pushing and creating newer ways to absorb information, so you don't have to suffer through like rote learn. And just knowing that there's a better way is itself an inherent motivator. Yeah, exactly. When you have teachers who teach you like they have a gun to your head or to their own head, it doesn't feel great. It's like, it's so lifeless. It's so like, it's so impersonal. And that's actually what one of the previous papers we were reading about was talking about, that like, it's hard to say how personal a teacher should be, because they kind of have the next role for bringing up a student after their parents. And so, and besides that, like, the amount to which a student cares about what the professor is teaching kind of is directly proportional to how much they care about the professor as well. Well, not to say that's a one-to-one, of course, nothing is, but like, most students will feel more motivated to do well in the course of a teacher that they care about. And while this may not be for all students or for all professors or all courses, I've personally experienced it in a few places as well. So yeah, researchers, they're like, hey guys, we should do this active learning. That's so cool. And it's so effective. But then they don't even know what active learning is. And so they just try lots of different things because none of them was defined properly when they were studying active learning. And then even when it was, it's just it's in such a convoluted state that it's hard to say what approach is correct for what teachers and what courses. And of course, like just like streaming, right? There are multiple skill sets that all content creators have, and in fact, I'm going to consider teachers to be content creators too, because I mean, that's basically what they're doing, right? If they have to plan a lecture, that's like planning a stream, except with people in real life and with slides, which are like overlays and stuff. And you know what? I imagine a version of the world where teachers are referring to their classroom as chat. Chat, tell me real quick, how does this work? Okay. So, actually making, so far all this paper's really said is that actually making students care about like learning will make them learn better, and actually empowering them with agency and something that inspires an internal locus of control will make them take more like control of their life. Yeah, poor professors, they had no idea how to stream and they're pushed into it because of circumstances. My heart really goes out to them and to the students who had to suffer through it. I was fortunate enough to have a course that I could just read out of a book, and my professor, yeah, my, well, let's just say, it was very unfortunate for my course that the professor had divorced his wife the previous year, because we learned more about his personal life than the course, unfortunately. I mean, we all passed, but it's a unfortunate loss of the course game theory. So anyways, yeah, most students just kind of like they get used to like passive brain fog learning that they do in high school, and then eventually when they hit uni and they get like more engaged ideas, more engaged concepts that like are more connected. Well, not uni necessarily, but you know, the parts that are more higher difficulty courses within uni. When you haven't learned how to use your brain, it's quite a shock to have to learn to use your brain in uni, or in like, you know, the last 2 years before your SATs. So like school doesn't really, I mean, a lot of at least third world country schools, or like a lot of poorer schools within places, maybe even the expensive ones, I actually have no idea how good it gets, but a lot of schools across the world don't really try to teach students how to use their brain, and instead just make them rote learn like geography, history, and stuff like that. So it's, the students go through a lot of difficulty when they have to come to terms with that. Anyways, there's this one bump in the Western world for this, where when professors try to you know, push students to be more active, right, and they aren't giving quote-unquote free grades, students are going to bite back by giving them negative reviews. And negative reviews are handled usually by some bigger board. So like that can lead to some very toxic relationships where a lot of professors are just forced to let students pass for free. And not to say that, you know, they shouldn't be allowed to pass and move ahead, but like my point is that you, by giving students the expected comfort of passing, they have very little motivation to actually do anything in your course, because the bottom line motivation of, you know, survival goes away. But of course, you can create more motivations, which honestly is like the part of the goal of active learning. Um, Getting negative feedback, and not feedback for, like, not actual negative feedback, but like just negative feedback because they didn't like what you were doing, can demotivate professors from attempting any engagement based model where they can, do something like giving students ownership over a project or some idea or whatever they want to do. Stuff like that just ends up dying because of that, taking people back to the same old, where they'll always get high like ratings if they just teach the things they have to teach and don't care about students improving in their learning and give them free grades. So it's rough. Honestly, I feel like there's very little a STEM professor can do regarding this. I mean, outside of, this doing more safer active learning things, maybe without any proper like heavy grade assigned to it. Most of this is stuff that I feel like should be handled in the lower grades so that people just learn to learn. Though I think all of education needs a revive anyways to actually, I mean, if you change the route, then people will be more receptive to this further down the line, and there will be less resistance, which then allows professors to be more creative regarding how they teach, which then leads to better outcomes. It's a chain. It's a chain of punishment. Either the professor punishes the students, or the students punish the professors, or both. And it's hard to say who's like even being ethical, because there's a lack of ethics on both sides sometimes. Anyways, our job isn't to solve it. Our job is just to understand what we can do. Let's see. Each classroom has high stakes assessments, few opportunities to demonstrate content proficiency. Active classroom has lots of evidence-based methods. Your job is to exist. And so it is for us all. Now, how you choose to exist is up to you. One sec. I have not eaten, so I'm going to take a bite of my food. If I had redeems, I would probably enable one to just like remind me to not starve to death. Anyways. Damn. So there's some deep teaching framework that was outlined in Dewsbury. That's very interesting. And Dewsbury and Brame, where certain strategies are they're enacted as a function of carefully cultivated relationships and continuous dialogue. Oh, that sounds so cool. What the hell? Okay, I said I wasn't gonna go look at these papers, but I really got to see what they're called. That's so cool. Okay. You know what? I have an idea. I'm gonna make sure to note down every paper I found interesting over here, because I don't want to forget about it. And I'll just note down its numbers, I suppose. 1, 2. So wait, I'll get the link. I'll post it here, and then I'll do 1, 2, and 3. Blah 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 blah. And where was it? Whoa, 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 whoa. I did not expect to see this over here. Where was I? Yeah, 22 and 21. There we go. Awesome. Now I can jump back to where I was. Aha. So, let's see this. The study was conducted at a large public research university in the Northeast US, blah blah blah. Was I here? What? Really? Oh, okay, I was. So, how did 5 years of utilizing these approaches impact academic outcomes? And they compared by race, not active learning, the previous 5 years compared to the 5 years where they didn't have active learning, and then the 5 years before that as well, just to see how much of a difference 5 years make as like a control of sorts, and their future performance, which they told us before, that ended up going up. So, oh my god, I don't need to read all of that info. So let's see, blah blah blah. Dewsbury piloted what the deep teaching, inclusive method, support structure. Simple decisions such as the length of videos watched in the flipped classroom model is impacted by the instructor's knowledge of the work hours the students keep. Ooh. The student voice being central in driving the process makes it fully inclusive. That's cool. So it's not just active, it's active and inclusive. I see. So having the yeah, okay. So the word inclusive over here means that students are given ownership over the initial ideas, like the stuff that they're learning, their grade, etc. And let's see. Okay, they're describing what the truly inclusive classroom is. The truly inclusive classroom begins with recognizing how the instructor and their social positioning play a key role in cultivating an inclusive environment. This self-awareness includes revisiting their own pathways through the profession, degree of knowledge. Through the profession, degree of knowledge about social. Degree of knowledge about social structures and an understanding of their role in education beyond subject area expertise. Yes. This step requires, at the very least, an understanding of the unconscious biases we all have. Okay, I gotta slow the music down. I'm trying to get, like, a little... There we go. Wait. I know what to play. Wait. I got this. Where is it? There you go. Okay, I said I was gonna slow it down, but I put up another fast track. But you know what? I feel like it. Haha. It's my stream and I can play the beats that I want. Okay, so at least you don't listen to that a cappella loop that I showed you. Oh my god. Oh yeah, where was I? Blah blah blah. Oh yeah, so just like it's important for a prof to know like how social interaction works and their unconscious biases and how it plays out in the class, and to be humble and to understand students better, and really, you know, getting to know their student is important. Actually talking to them and, you know, figuring out their mindset and their background. Ooh. So giving a shit about the student makes them perform better. Okay, so the summative assessments. Ooh, there's 4 tests that are only worth 15% of the grade. Are each worth 15% of the grade? That's insane. What the hell? Oh, I hate group assignments. No. And pre-class assignments. Well, groups assignments are honestly so beautiful in their potential. As long as nobody else can use job or laziness as an excuse, and you know what? Maybe with group assignments, right? Maybe the more of a hand that the prof has in making sure there's like initial momentum going, the more people can actually do something. Because a lot of the times in group projects, I feel maybe even those who are like lazy and or not doing anything, maybe they too are victims of their low self agency, where they didn't process how much of an impact they can have in their group project. And like, okay, there's knowing, and then there's there's like comprehending, and then there's knowing. There's like, you know that by doing some work you're gonna have some impact, right? But then to really feel it in your bones is a whole other thing. And a lot of people, they're like, if you ask them how much the work they could have done, they're gonna go, yeah, I probably could do it. But then there's going to be like a hesitation in them, which is like, oh yeah, but whatever I do, like this person who's smart in my group is going to be doing so much more useful work, so what's the point? That like, that defeatist what's the point idea, or like kind of like anything that pushes the agency of the project off of oneself to try and wipe their hands clean of it. If that's challenged at the source, maybe it might help these students actually care and function well in group projects. And if we had some kind of framework to make them care about their role in the group project beyond just like your friends will tell on you, which is the current system, the one where you give feedback at the end, like that, having a system to make them care should make a huge difference for this. Data was obtained for this, for their high school SAT, first generation status, ethnicity, blah blah blah. Oh boy. Due to a non-normal distribution for final course grades, comparisons of pairwise Wilcoxon ranked some differences. What am I looking at? What huh? Okay. A non-parametric Kruskal-Wallis test. What is a Kruskal-Wallis test? We will get through this together. And if we don't, we will at least have some idea. And if we don't, well, rip. Screw you! The AI overview. I don't need your help. Anyways. It's comparing some curves. Descriptive stats. They have some score out of 100. It's showing median, mean, rank. I don't get it. A statistical test to see whether samples originate from the same distribution. Ooh, I get it. It's to see whether they are fitting normal distribution from looking at error bar. Ah, it makes sense. Wait, what did AI overview have to say? I'm curious now. Yes, AI overview, what do you want to say?
It is the Kruskal-Wallis test is a non-parametric statistical method used to compare 3 or more independent groups to determine if there are significant differences between them. It ranks the data instead of assuming a normal distribution, making it suitable for ordinal or non-normally distributed continuous state.
Is that what Geeks for Geeks says? Are you sure? Let's see. Are you lying to me? Okay. It's rank based. It doesn't assume normal distribution. Yeah. Comparing 3 or more groups.
Actually, The Crystal Wallace test is used for the specific purpose. Actually,
Okay, so the Kruskal-Wallis test is useful for when the assumptions of one-way ANOVA are not met. So it's used for these. So, instead of analyzing means, we examine differences in the rank sums of the groups. So we rank the data, we compute the rank sum, we calculate this number. Okay, so in order to understand this, right, there's a secret technique. Remember how we were looking at our wonderful graph here, like our wonderful like notes here, right? There's this thing called what is it? Multiple elements interactivity, right? Now we do not want our mental bandwidth to run out, and this is not, I mean, it's kind of relevant to our mental bandwidth, and we can honestly look at and understand what it's saying, right? But we can assess that if it takes us more than a certain amount of energy, we can make a judgment based off of whether it's worth our mental bandwidth or not. Now, that said, over here we see a bunch of symbols, right? But what's useful is that's actually telling us what these things mean. Knowing that, if we plug it in, what this is saying is some number over number of observations multiplied, summing with the sum of ranks for some group over the number of observations in that group. So sum of ranks over number of observations in that over total number of observations. So for some reason, it's looking at some sum of ranks over observations and comparing it to the total observations. What would that give us? So let's look at it in terms of logic, because if they're doing this much of a job to help us know, we will do the rest. So if we have sum of observations, we're comparing distance from the average, right? Because we're looking at all of them added compared to their distance from the center, right? So that gives us some number, that gives us some kind of estimate how many things are far away from the center, right? That's what this is. And we're comparing it to some number about the total number of observations. So anyways, yeah, it's basically telling us that out of all of the numbers that exist, how much does it move away from the middle point, right? Which makes sense. So big number, probably big move away from middle point. Big move away from middle point tell us whether it's normal distributed or not. So let's see. We compare to chi-square distribution. Okay, we compare to another distribution, and if number below, then it mean it vary, which mean yeah. So yeah, all this is just saying that all of this is to where'd my paper go? Paper, come back. Paper. Wait, did I really close that? No, it's over here. Okay. So yeah, all that stuff is just saying that what we did was we compared how far from center to see whether it made any actual difference, because how are students who had thing were performing versus students who did not have thing. And so student who have thing perform better, which mean thing good. That's what all this yap means. Due to large ICCs, large intercorrelation coefficients. Nice. Okay. So results. It good. Making student care about study, good. Making teachers care about student, good. And students remain better permanently after having good teacher. Ooh. That's actually insane. So the chance of you going one interval higher is 2.3 to 3.3 times higher when you have a good like strategy for teaching. Now it's not. Well, does it show us how far up? No, it doesn't. Sad. But yeah, the chance of getting at least one grade higher is way higher. That's insane. So hey, this gives us an idea of what it looks like. Get this. So this is actually really cool. So these are all students who are trying to pass and get a high final grade, right? And for all like equalized students over here, right? If you only have a lecture, then the 75th percentile student is getting a B. Your average student's getting like a 2.3, which is like a C or something. And a lot of students are failing, which sucks. But then if you compare it to a version of the lecture where questions are being asked, right? Look at how far up this band goes. Boom. Nobody goes below a D because people are involved. And the worst of the average students ends up still getting a C, which is how it should kind of be, right? And I don't remember what the diamond means in a box and whiskers diagram labels. I don't know. Let's look at a box and whiskers words. Box and whiskers. There's no diamond here. Okay, that's the mean. Okay, so this is 25. This is 50. This is the mean. This is 75. Ah, okay. So this is 25. This is 50. This is the mean. This is 75. Okay, so the average by score student is getting like a 2.5, and the average by position student is getting like a 2.7 over here, which is good. Yeah. Now, you know what I find very interesting here? Now, get this. If you don't ask questions to students, but you still make it look like you give a shit about them, and then do your lecture, boom, look at this jump. This is just from caring about the student. You know what I'm noticing here? Okay, so 75th percentile is this, right? So that means good students are doing pretty good here, and they basically they get uplifted by quite a decent bit off of the lecture, right? The students who don't care, they go up just slightly. Huh. And according to this data, the average position student ends up actually being pretty much the same. But the worst student gets uplifted by quite a huge margin. So the students who seem to be having the most miserable lives, they pull their grade up, but not by a meaningful enough amount for it to push the average grade too far up, because they're still pulling the average down. Interesting. So it's the difference between getting like a D and failing entirely. So if teachers prove that they give a shit about you, then your chance of failing significantly reduces to near zero, even if your overall grade doesn't improve all that much. Interesting. But so it's very important for teachers to force students to contribute and take more ownership of their like class. And if you combine both of those, forcing them to take ownership and caring about them, then people from all walks of life except for 75th percentilers go up. So 75th percentilers are fairly consistent as long as they have just and like a crumb, right? They're basically at the same point in the graph the entire time. But 50th percentilers soar when both emotional and mental needs are being met. That's so interesting. The 50th percentilers just like go from like miles up. Like that's that's going from 2.2 to like 3. That's going from like a C to a B. That's insane. That's how much of a difference it makes for students to actually like, you know, feel like they're involved in the course. That's wild. Oh, and by the way, most of these people who were failing before, they were people from minorities. So actually feeling like you're like you matter is not too important to white people in the US, but it makes an astronomical difference to minorities in the US. Interesting. I mean, that kind of makes sense as well because people who have more stable finances are going to have more stable houses, which means more stable mental health. Whereas people who have less stable finances will have been raised in less stable households, which then means that they may not even have a role model to speak of, which means they'd be a lot more desperate for some kind of connection, which would then, if it's being met by the teacher in being some kind of role model for them, or to at least, you know, show that they care, it's going to make them feel a lot more emotionally stable about the course, which then makes their performance rise up by a lot and basically shuts down the almost entirely shuts down them actually dropping out and failing the course, because they think that if they matter, they care enough to actually see it through, which is very interesting. And if not only are they being cared about, but they're also being like, you know, if they're being pulled in to discussions to talk about where they are with the course and, you know, what they want to do with it, then they go even further up and they become part of, like, they soar up to what used to be the 25th percentilers here are basically the 50th percentilers of all other tests. That's insane. So even like a lower average student becomes average. And then they continue to do better as well. So nice. Interesting. Deep teaching can engender success in blah blah blah. Some reflection is necessary. What is success? The Freirian concept of dialogue. What in the hell? What is Freirian concept of dialogue? I feel like I missed my timer at some point. No, I must have gone to the... Oh, I probably went to concepts and that messed with it. Medium.com. Sure, why not? Okay, dialogue, blah blah blah. Good thing. Fear dialogue is always a route towards a reciprocal model. Yeah, bro, medium.com. I have seen it repost stuff that was clearly on Geeks for Geeks. Hell nah. Get out of my face. Disgusting. So, so for Freer, dialogue is the route towards a reciprocal model of learning where the student takes an active position in the space of educational exchange. Speaking understandably, has a pride of place in liberatory dialogue, where recognition of blah 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 blah. His experiences in adult education and conscious adults, this teacher very often has much to learn from a student. Yeah. Banking model of education. Oh, okay. Back in my day, you would just listen and absorb. And that wasn't so useful because it encouraged this authoritarian acceptance of a professor. And this guy realized that like they need to change. Oh shit. Wait. So, are you saying hypothesis, higher agency individuals require collaboration for optimal learning? Wait, no, that's not higher agency individuals necessarily, because even if someone has no, it is. So if you feel suffocated by the authoritarian approach of academics, you might get distracted because of your inability to be as involved as you would hope, which is interesting. Your curiosity can be your downfall in an authoritarian form of education. Okay, enjoy the lyric, Jade. So, an authoritarian take on education can cause people who are more creative or higher agency to feel more suffocated, and those negative emotions can express itself in the form of distraction, which then means that a student who otherwise would have been very involved in the course and involved in their learning process is, because of their poor emotional control, being being rendered helpless to voice out their thoughts and end up completing their ideas. So it's not just high agency individuals. What did I say? It's both high agency individuals and it's people who are yeah, it's people who are high agency and people who are more collaborative. I forgot. I'm gonna have to look at this again. Preeminent, dominant space, neutral version. Learning meant being silent, and going against that degrades into authoritarianism and domination, a culture of silence. And high agency individuals being shut down by authoritarian forms of education breeds churns, I suppose. Churns active learners into helpless passive learners. They require collaboration for optimal learning. Ah, interesting. Which means if the knowledge bank form of teaching is accepted really well by someone, then they either need to compartmentalize their questions for a better time. So they need to either be good at compartmentalization, uh, or they need to give up and simply accept what's being taught to them, because they can't rely on the bank of knowledge that they have in front of them for absorbing information. One moment. Okay, so how it came together, blah blah blah, social service. The kind of house he lived in with his family, even though he had never seen it, he was aware, one who must listen and who is spoken to, of the kind of life Freer led and the conditions that allowed Freer to do his research into the workers' lives. He writes that his mistake was his all but oblivion of the hard reality of the huge audience seated before me, and his ignorance of the class knowledge the man shared with him. Oh yeah, so he got to hear about what like people's lives are like. Ooh. Okay, so a lot of the times when people talk about their research, right? It's actually very rare for people's household members or like wives, etc., to get credited with something. But he talks about how he complained to his wife after the meeting. He was like, I thought I'd been so clear. I don't think they understand me or understood me. And she says, could it have been you, Paolo, who didn't understand them? And she went on, I think they got the main point of your talk. The worker made that clear in what he said. They understood you, but they needed to have you understand. Oh, they wrote understood. They needed to have you understand them. And he says nothing more that night. Damn. That's so cool. Okay, different track. Let's see. I am going to pull this one out. Where is that? There we go. Okay, so with this in mind, we can return to the sequence what we have from the talk in the auditorium. Blah 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 story. Gaussian dialogue and listening. Okay, so between hearing and listening, what's actually said doesn't seem to matter as much. Dialogue is open-ended, and since you can't communicate an idea directly, it has to be in the form of words. It can be led astray. It's like that, like a human being was being oh god, no 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 no. Okay, there you go. I don't want to piss off the hypothetical copyright gods. I mean, it shouldn't be an issue, but I just don't want to mess with that until I have a better idea of it. So, what am I doing? Right, I was playing a track. Oh, right, I didn't put it on loop. Damn. So, wait, actually, I have an idea. Boom. We're back to fast music. They struggled to establish a... Where were we? A dialogue at a remove from its lived origins. Could be understood by literary, but whatever. Okay. Hope is an ontological need. Damn. Just to verify, ontological meant like to a logical standpoint, right? Like a mentally logical? No, it was like, oh, it was a study of being. It's a I remember there were a bunch of words like these back in philosophy class. Anyways, yeah. So nature of being. So by existing, one's basest need is hope. Okay, that makes sense. So so we should listen to what the voiceless have to say. Which means by focusing too much on words, we will often lose the meaning behind words. By trying to dig too deep into it, we lose the essence of what's being communicated to us. Because oftentimes, communication isn't like... One sec. There you go. So, communication isn't necessarily people saying their thoughts directly, right? So, people can have meanings behind their words, and sometimes they don't have the ability to communicate those words. And so, like, that idea plays into this, where your own like learnings, your education, right? Anything you're teaching, the words that you say to students and the words that the students say to you aren't necessarily being met for the idea behind it. A person's ethical or political statements may not necessarily map to their actual beliefs. So, and knowing that most people aren't very skilled at communicating their true beliefs, and with how identity politics plays into this, people may have certain beliefs that they end up mixing into other ideas in this weird, like, posh of politics because of their inability to express their desire for hope, which is a fundamental human desire. So that's interesting. And this exact concept of wanting hope plays into adults in higher education, and how listening and being comfortable being wrong is the kind of space that is very important to develop, I guess. Because because higher education features a lot of unlearning, right? And the fear of being wrong or saying things that are wrong can hurt your desire for hope. And a lot of students just kind of like they go silent in education because they lose hope on communicating with their voice what they truly want. And so like actually allowing people to be able to speak is very important to a fundamental level, because it allows those who need things to be fixed to be able to communicate that, which makes sense. Okay, so that's definitely one of our learnings. We can't have we like a silent classroom, a silent authoritarian classroom can cause the voice of hope within the student to die, causing them to not communicate the issues or weaknesses that they face and could have used help with. So damn. So that's interesting. By like, if you go too much into this authoritarian view of like people, you end up learning like professors can cause learned helplessness to fester within a student due to their teaching style. And that just causes negative outcomes across all of the students' future classes, which is interesting. And you actually see the pattern of learned helplessness express itself within what is this doing here? Shoot. Anyways, you see the pattern of learned helplessness express itself in a lot of students from like minority communities, because in okay, so get this. Generally, wait, actually let's pull to here. Where are we? Let's go to our concepts. There you go. Oh, have we been there the entire time? I hope not. Oh no, we just moved there. That's why I did that. Okay, of course. Yeah, so this idea of where was I actually kind of forgot. Learned helplessness. Yeah, so if you have students learning to yeah, I remember now. Minority households. So you see, low finance, right? Low finance tends to lead to no safety net. No safety net leads to desperation, which leads to more authoritarian households where they say that you have no choice, you can never become an art major, for instance. And this like low finance to no safety net to desperation to authoritarian households leads to god damn it, relearned helplessness. Which then means lower outcomes in higher education. Now, of course, this is not true in many cases, in terms of, especially in terms of, okay, actually, this is weird. For some people, the ability to study makes them feel like they have agency in their life. Some people, dealing with perfectionists is going to make them study really hard so that they feel like they can live up to them. So this doesn't necessitate lower outcome, but it does contribute to lower outcome in some cases. But one thing that can be connected though is that being from a poorer household increases the chance of your house being authoritarian. And if it's authoritarian, but your academics don't like directly linked to survival, then I suppose that could lead to lower outcome in most cases, which actually would explain why the quote unquote Asian household ends up having like both an authoritarian house as well as a like high general outcome, whereas a lot of other minorities will end up having lower outcomes because the if the only thing that can overpower the lower outcome from pre-learned helplessness is if the authoritarianism is being challenged, like channeled towards the idea of success in education, which means if your goal is just education and not the person's mental health and or future relationships, then having an authoritarian like household with the focus on education can produce very good outcomes in terms of academia. But why do that when you can instead produce people who are free thinkers and can not just get good outcomes but also do things with them rather than just, because one issue is that even if the authoritarian student ends up getting high outcomes in academia, right, they are going to want to pick the safe option every time rather than actually doing something with that outcome. And so they're inspired to not do something that's not ordained for them. So that's interesting. So learning a sports skill, how does that work with this? Copyright, 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 open access article. Hell yeah. Show me that PDF. Okay, one moment. Okay, so when I click on this, that's odd. Is it not on? It is. One second. Interesting. So wait, why isn't it changing to this? Gosh darn it. I have to debug this. What is my automatic scene switcher doing? Perhaps I do this. And now when I do this and then I do this, it should work. No? Oh really? Does it change its name constantly and so that causes this thing to bug out? Maybe I can do this. Haha funny. Zen.exe, enter. And or maybe now this works. Boom. It did switch, it did not switch. Tragic. Oh well, I'm gonna have to force it. Sad. I am going to select my browser and then press enter. And now when I click on this, it should switch, and it did. And I'm going to remove the Pomodoro timer because we did not use that even once today. Oh my god. Okay, so I think this should be our last paper for today though. During childhood forms the foundation for lifelong participation in sport, essential for long-term health and fitness benefits. Blah blah blah. Sports good. They traditionally do repetitive things. Dynamical systems theory perspectives challenge these traditional assumptions about skill acquisition. One moment. The underlying assumption that has fueled such teaching methods is that an ideal movement pattern exists for a task and the practitioner's role is to recreate that. Learning is a gradual linear process offering the power law. Dynamical systems theory perspective challenge these traditional outcomes about skill acquisition. 378. 378? Practice instruction, skill acquisition, soccer. Skill acquisition, constraints-led approach, human kinetics. Complexity thinking in physical education. Huh. Interesting. Benefits of NP, further investigations required, need for more representing learning designs. Investigate how it should be an optimal approach relative to training both in a game and a team class setting. Okay, what is NP? NP or LP group? NP, 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 NP. What's NP? NP. Enter. Okay, all the way at the top. Click here. Enter, enter, enter. Find me NP. Find me pictures of Spider-Man. Okay, non-linear pedagogy. Oh. Non-linear teaching. That's lame. How does non-linear teaching work? Methods, blah blah blah. Learn ground stroke in tennis. Same features in the respective blah 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 blah. Okay. Returning tennis shot, authentic tennis game, ensure the feed is consistent, ball had to land. 15-minute try a week to learn a forehand ground stroke. Each consists of 80, blah blah blah. Understanding that learners could be viewed as either. Okay, what's the difference between them? Okay, what's the difference between them? That seems way too vague. Hit ball like rainbow, hit ball sideways, shake hands with racket in front. I mean, they're useful ways to word it, but that's just packaging, isn't it? I have lost energy for this because it seems so unexciting. So I will be moving back to just chatting here, and I will be working on ending stream now. So I'm going to. Have I been eating? No, I took one bite and I forgot about it entirely. Lamau. So, so what do we have here? What do we have here? Who is... Ooh, Calculum streaming. So what I'm gonna do is I'm going to raid him. What is he doing?
A follow
Oh.
back from...
No! A commercial break. A commercial break right after I open someone's stream. Okay. Guys, I'll do you a solid. Look. I understand we are all brain rotten Gen Z. So what we're gonna do is we're going to find something. Oh hey, what's this? This is a stream of FrostVT. Anyways, what are we gonna do? We are going to see nothing. We are going to see nothing. In the time I'm going to scroll down, we will have already burnt the 1 minute. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna see if there's anything in shorts, and I can't scroll right, so we're not looking at anything in shorts. So we are out of time. Okay. Really? I thought I burnt a full 1 minute 20. Excuse you. Wow. Okay. That's fine. We'll just load YouTube again. Look. It's working out. Actually, why am I loading YouTube? Screw that. You know what? We're gonna chill at the terminal, and I'm gonna see how we're gonna close this off. So yeah, we got to read like a lot of how learning works, right? And how teaching works. Well, nobody can seem to agree on it. There's some concepts of like active learning. There's a concept of this like, where was this paper? There was an idea of like non-traditional methods of, and so it active and inclusive learning specifically, and inclusive, and yeah, generally just giving students, making students feel like they are involved is good. And that was the biggest thing I guess we really got to learn. And having different ways to engage students to prevent them from wasting mental bandwidth. And well, yeah, so I am going to real quick hit this / hey, I have a raid message. I'm going to show you guys a raid message, but I'm going to start this first. But I have a raid message, and we are going to use the raid message at the very least before we bail. So let me do this. Raid and okay, so yo, what is this? Okay, there you go. I don't know, Frost raid. There you go. Send this. And I am going to hit the button. So yeah, make sure to send this in chat when we go. Bye bye.